All right, guys and girls, for those of you joining me, we have today a little bit of an out of the ordinary install video. My friend over at themodshop.co has invented or designed a dual NAND solution chip called Viper Dual NAND. And today I hope to do my first test install of this. So this is the Dual NAND solution that is, just to give you an idea, much smaller than the Team Executor version. So we're going to go through and look at installing this on a Trinity motherboard. So hang out with me. Alright, so what we have here is a Trinity motherboard console. I've got the Viper Dual NAND chip here. I had placed it just on the back side to show you kind of where it installs before. And then we also have a install diagram from the mod shop, the man himself here. So we've got basic instructions on how to wire that up using an ACE V3, which is what we would normally use on a RGH console. I don't typically love doing dual NAND installs. I don't really see a whole lot of value in them most of the time personally, because I feel like you can generally get all the benefits out of a dual NAND out of two separate consoles with nearly the same, if not less, expense. So that said, I'm looking around for my scratch pin so that I can get started here. Oh, here we go. Sorry about that. So first things first, fiberglass scratch pin over the NAND headers. We still need to read the copy of the onboard NAND. We need to do that so that we have a valid set of files to kind of begin working with. So I'm just doing my normal procedure of taking off that top layer coating off of the NAND header points, and just do that with a basic fiberglass scratch pin here. Hit it with some flux. And I'm going to bring this in a little bit so that you can see the wire install here. I'll just run my iron over it to kind of liquefy the flux up a little bit. And we're just going to go ahead and pre-tin the spots that we're going to need to solder to. So I'm doing the NAND wire points as well as power, ground, E, and F. That will route to the ACE chip there. If this is my first time doing this dual NAND install, a good luck is in order. This is my first time doing this particular chip, as I don't believe there's too many of them out there in the wild. It's my understanding that he only sent these to a few people for kind of beta testing, but I've definitely dual NANDed consoles in the past, always using the Demon. Although once I did work on a console, I didn't do the install, but I did a repair on a console that had a Trident in it, which was the triple NAND solution from was it Matrix or Maximus? I forget who, but it was. I remember it was called the Trident. So if you were to Google Trident triple NAND, you could find out information about that. So just walking through the normal NAND point install. For those of you who are familiar with RGHing, this should be totally normal and repetitive stuff, just soldering in a NAND header so that we can read and write to and from the NAND. Oh, and look at that. Got a little sloppy with my my soldering there and bridged these points. There we go. So this is certainly not left permanent, which is why I'm not worried about it being terribly perfect. Oh, sorry for the shaky cam when I bump it there. I'm throwing my hand right in front of the camera. Alright, so step one, solder in your NAND wires. Completed. Now I realize after I say this that my wife tried to use these NAND wires not too long ago and had some issues reading the NAND. So I don't know if this set of wires is actually good. We may end up needing to swap them out. Alright, so I'm connecting standby power, moving over the header, plugging it into the NANDX, and then we'll fire up JRunner. So down here, got a copy of JRunner. And the screen likes to go black at this point, so I have no idea what you guys are seeing right here, so I apologize. It's going to take just a few seconds for my JRunner to spin up because I run it off of an external hard drive. Here we go. So there's JRunner. I'm going to go ahead and hit the query button. I do get a valid flash config, so the NAND wires seem to be working just fine. So I'm going to hit read. Yes, those are resistor legs soldered on to the end of my NAND wires. I find that it's pretty useful to have something a little more resilient than just the stranded copper wire. So it's going to take a few moments for that to all read the two copies of the NAND. While that's going on, I guess I could do a little bit of prep work on the ACE chip and just pre-tinning the solder pads here. So it's just a standard ACE V3. There are a couple of spots where we're going to actually attach additional points to it per the install diagram. Go. You got cursed on your forum for doing that. You got cursed on my forum. Who's what? Okay. I don't know what you're saying there, really. So, Ace V3 pads are tinned up. NAND read is still in progress here. There's only 9 people. I'm going to turn off the slow chat. Sometimes when there's a bunch of people, the slow chat helps, but right now there's only a few of you guys. And you seem like cool people. It's the middle of the day. So, I guess I could explain why I'm streaming in the middle of the day. Obviously, people will be able to watch this recorded, but for those of you who may be watching live, thank you, first of all. That's pretty cool. I think it's neat. But second of all, I got a new position at my company. So, my work hours, my daytime job hours are now 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. So, when and if I stream, it's likely to be before 2 p.m., during the day, because that's the time that I have before I go to work, and then I work until 10 p.m. and then I generally just crash after. So probably not going to be doing any other streaming unless it's on the weekends in the evening time. I know, thrilling to watch an NAND read happen. I guess I could have done this prior to the stream, whatever, but it's evening where you are. You know what? That's totally changed my name from the weekend modder to the everyday modder. Yeah. You know, when I started, it really was a genuine, like, I do shit on the weekends, so therefore I'm going to be the weekend modder. But it hasn't really been that way for a while. I've certainly tried to take weekends off as often as I possibly can. So, but that's clever. That's fun. And Just Meh. It looks like Just Meh. That's your name. All right. So cool. We got our 2 NAND reads in, and we got the all-important NANDs are the same, so we know we have 2 good copies of the current NAND image there. I'm not going to bother writing an ECC file or doing any of that because hopefully we should be able to write any modified images that we need to the dual NAND chip rather that it's evening here too. Belgium. Dude, shout out to Belgium. Awesome. That's really cool. Rather than using the onboard NAND, you know, for the RGH portion as we normally would. So, that said, our next part is going to be more or less performing the standard ACE V3 install in the Trinity motherboard. Now, many of you are probably already familiar with this. I've made at least 4 or 5 videos on this particular process. You can check them out. They're all linked over at weekendmodder.com. There's a Trinity page, and all of the videos of me doing Trinities are available on that page. I'm looking around for the package that the ACE V3 came in, which has all of the little wire sets on it, and I'm totally not organized and don't have it like at the ready. Here's an extra one. Alright, so here's the bottom of the little ACE V3 package that comes with the little red wires here. Have I received a console from Linda? No, I don't think so. I've never been asked for... Of all of the ways I get asked for status updates and have you gotten my console yet, that is the first time anybody's asked me for an update like that via a live stream. So congratulations, you have achieved a first here. So what I'm doing now, just to call it out, is that the wire links on the end here are significantly longer than they need to be. So I'm just taking a pair of snips and trimming off the excess so that it's a nice small little point. So bear with me as I get that done, and then we'll get the power, ground, E, and F all wired in. All right, so the power point on these is actually the lowest point here, right? So that's what we're going to run from there to the 5-volt pad on the ACE V3 chip. So there's our power. Then the next one up here, that is the ground. So we're going to go ahead and apply that to the connection labeled GND, or ground, off of the ACE V3 chip. And then these 2 points are E on the lower side and then F on the upper side as it's oriented on the screen right now. Typically I'll start by doing F since it's easier to do them in that order. So that one goes to F, and then the final point there routes to the point labeled E. Now the other two final points, C and D, actually route to the underside of the board. So what I like to do is take one of the longer wires. So all of these were shorter. If I show you real fast, so this one is obviously like twice as long as the rest of them here. And attach that to C to start with, and then I'll take it out of the case and flip it over and route the wire through to actually install that to the point that it needs to go to. So Armored Pandas, thanks for watching, dude. That's awesome. The Gamer in Belgium, you can get slim 360s for 74 bucks. Yeah, no, that's about average. About 50 bucks is what GameStop charges for a fat, and they did a deal for a little while for 79 for 250 gig slims, and I snatched up a bunch when that was available. But right now, 250 gig slim still seems to bring at retail about 100, 120. If you're willing to shop around a little bit, you know, pawn shops, that sort of stuff, those you can definitely get cheaper. My wife bought a E series, which is the latest model slim, the other day for $5. Some lady, we don't think she knew what she had, or she was maybe trying to punish her kids. We're not really sure. I was surprised. My wife tried to tell her that it was worth more, but she was like, no, she just wanted $5. So we gave her $5. It was cool. All right, so I just stripped the end of that. So now I'm just going to pre-tin the end of the wire here, and then we're going to get that trimmed to a reasonable length. And that's just because this is stranded wire. So, all right. The next point will be our post point, which is point C, and that will actually be right here at the lower edge of this one. So if we go, the way I think about it is starting from the very bottom, if we go up one, over one, it's that little point right there. Do I buy RGH the 75 for an E-Slim, same as normal Slim? Yeah, totally. Those prices aren't outrageous. We can definitely get that sort of price around here. Just not always reliably. So if like your local retail stores are selling them for the prices you're describing, you're totally doing well. That's awesome. I think that's no problem at all. All right. So there's our C or post point. And then so what I do is with the remaining bit, so I just trimmed that C wire to length. That is what was left over. I'm not even going to use the other really long wire. Just put it in my little jar of wires. I'm going to install that to the D point. The D point is, we got to get real close up here, is actually the top side of the resistor that's off the top edge of the video here. So there's a pair of resistors that you can see right here. The left one on the top side, it's R4D4 is the label that you can't really see here. So there's the what I'll call the bottom of the resistors, and then on the top side of the resistors. So we're going for the left one, top side, and that's what's going to run over here to our D point. RGHing is funny. Be careful. Are you warning me or him? Cheaper alternative to the Nandex. JR programmers are certainly an option, but I find that they're significantly more flaky. The Super Nand flasher is roughly a Nandex clone, but I believe they have pretty poor quality control. So I've had significant issues. I stopped selling the Super NAND flasher personally because so many of my customers had issues and were, wanting to do returns and stuff, that their quality control was so bad that I simply couldn't support, selling them anymore because of all of the issues. Alright, so what I do is I start with the back side of the D point here. I solder that in first, so that I don't at any point tug on the wire when it's connected to the resistor here. So it's going to go on and be installed just like that. The little bit of the wire that you can see is going to be touching right to the top, and then I'm going to permanently install that. So I'm going to put just a tiny bit of flux across that, and I'm going to try to do this without blocking your guys' view. So let me see if I can get lined up here. There we go. Alright, so hopefully I can still give you guys a good shot of this. Alright. Need a little bit of solder on the end of my iron. There we go. A little more. There we go. All right. So there is that. So if we were RGHing this console and doing nothing else, we would have the glitch chip installed now. Our next steps would be to write the ECC file, try to boot it, get the CPU key, that sort of stuff. But since we're being adventurous, we're going to move right on to installing the Dual Nand, and then I'm going to write the ECC to the secondary NAND and try to make it boot Zell for the first time doing that. So this is the orientation in the install diagram that I was provided, and the Dual Nand Viper solution here is designed to place right along same sort of headers that the well, of course it would be the same as the Team Executor, right? So we're gonna go for something like that, and then there's going to be lots of little bitty soldering to get done here. Obviously there's the whole row across the top, there's the 4 close-in little points here, the power and ground through this what looks like capacitor to me, and then the little stuff here as well. So position is going to be real important, that we make sure we get that thing lined up. I'm also going to make sure that I clean up the pads and put some flux down and that sort of stuff. Are those alternative solder points? Those are the same solder points that I use on the matrix. Excuse me. Let me retry that again. I'm brain farting. Those are the same points that I always use on the Trinity Ace V3 install. They're not alternative to me, because that's the method that I use every single time when it comes to that particular type of install. So I'm going to lift this up for a second. I'm going to get out the handy little fiberglass scratch pin and just try to kind of polish up these contacts that I know I'm going to be soldering to make sure that they're going to take the solder as well as is possible and make good contacts. Alright, so in that case I'm gonna put a little bit of rubbing alcohol on a pad here. point under the X clamp. I mean, there are methods of using the CPU RST or D point that's up under here. There is a connection for that, but that's not the method that I use with the Trinity Ace V3 install. Maybe what you watched was a Corona or something. The pads are smaller when you look at them with the bare eye. Notice that when you took apart your 360. Oh yeah, for sure. It can be misleading when you're looking at it blown up on your giant monitor, right, through my video feed. Even with the lower quality camera, because, you know, I don't have the best equipment in the world or anything. I mean, this, look, you're like, oh, sure, no big deal. Look, there's a difference. But there's my finger for size, right? All of those points are fitting in the size, the width of my finger. Super small. Even with pictures, it's really misleading. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and place this back, and I'm going to get out a piece of tape here, because what I want to do is anchor the thing real securely so that it doesn't wiggle around on me as I'm trying to get the first few contacts down. And once I have 2 or 3 contacts down, right, it won't really matter if the tape is on there anymore, because at that point the soldered in contacts will hold everything rigidly together. But until that's done, it would move around and you know, that sort of thing. It's your boy Max. You finally RGH'd your Trinity. Hey, cool. You're very welcome. I hope one of my other videos or live streams was helpful. Adam Howells. What did you want? Adam Axion Smurf is asking a lot. What? What did he do? I missed something. Any suggestions? You have a stubborn Fat Jasper RGH 1.2. Followed my guide with the Rev C, since you had one laying around. The wiring is solid, but it takes forever to boot. Well, did you play with the timing files? I mean, my guides all reference using the 21 timing file, the RGH1221, but there are 35 of them or something. You don't mention whether or not you worked your way down through some or all of those. Sometimes with a particularly stubborn console. Man, why can't I get this tape to work? I'm trying to use this stupid clear tape and it's just like not dispensing. Fuck, there's sorry for the language. There's a roll right here, all ready to dispense. Alright, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna place that tape right over the main section of the chip. I'm gonna try to get this thing positioned exactly how I want it, and then I'm gonna press the tape down. So I'm looking at all the lower points, the upper points. I'm trying to make sure everything is like right on the money where I want it to be. And I think I'm doing okay here. So I might be offset by a little bit, which you can kind of fudge by pushing on the chip, you know. Alright. And this part, this came up further than I really wanted it to. Yeah, I'm going to have to redo this, because I don't want the tape so close. I'm going to do this top row as like my main anchor base, so I don't want it to, the tape to be near there, because that's where I'm going to be soldering, and I'm going to melt the tape all over. Alright. What are we doing? Use it under the X clamp with an ace. You can't post links. Yeah, you're probably not going to be able to. There's some sort of filtering that happens in the chat. With the 21, it was average boot times, then switched to the 18 one, and it was crazy. Sometimes instant, sometimes forever. And yeah, with the hard drive in, sometimes that can affect boot times. Congrats on the 100 videos, by the way. Public videos. I had like 900 some videos on this account not that long ago, and I actually went through and deleted a few years worth of really old videos and old proofs and stuff like that. I have a secondary channel that is dedicated to just my proof videos now. So that's the TWM Proofs channel. I did that some time ago because I had a number of subscribers telling me they wanted to stay subscribed, but they were annoyed by the quantity of all of my proof videos, because I post, sometimes 3 proof videos a day or 5 proof videos a day or whatever. So they were, understandably being overwhelmed by basic proof videos, but still wanted to see my tutorials and stuff. So, so the solder, you need a new ace through your solder point. Oh, bummer. All right. So I think I've got the position down here. The camera is not exactly straight up and down, so when I do it this way, you can see, yeah, this is a little better. It's going to be more difficult for me, but that's fine. Who cares about that? All right. And then under here, you can see under the tape that it's still real spot on these other contacts that we're going to have to do. This class is boring. Good news, it's an elective. You can leave whenever you want. Alright. So you got a nice little line of flux across there. And I think what I'm going to do is actually rotate this thing. So you need them Johnny Gunge angles. Yeah, is his stuff real good? I haven't really watched any of his tutorials there. So the reason I'm switching the angle here for me is that when my soldering iron comes in, I kind of want to come in from this angle so that I can make sure that I get the contact on the board and then hit the iron or hit the solder in from the top, and that should leave a nice little bridge from the top of the PCB down to the pad on the motherboard. So it should go something like this. There we go. So it's a nice, pretty little, easy. There we go. Let me just keep going down the row. The thickness on this board seems to be less than the thickness of the 360 Demon by Team Executor. So the pads were able to adhere. Let me see if I can get the camera to focus here. Come on, is it too close? It looks like pretty good job. This is actually kind of serving as validation for me. The magnifying seems to be confirming. I don't see any bridges. It doesn't look like they're touching each other. So that looks pretty reasonable to me. So I'm going to take that same little alcohol-soaked cotton pad that I had before, and before that, flux has the chance to crustify. I'm just going to kind of gently, I'm not being overly rough because these points are not necessarily, stupid robust, and just clean the top of them off there. So, next part is I'm going to go ahead and peel off the tape that we laid down. Since we have all those connections up top, I don't expect that this thing is going to be able to move at all. So we should be okay there. Alright, so continuing on, the next 4 or 5 points that I'm going to do are these CLE, MLE, ALE, WP, WE, RE, these sets of points here. To be honest, just clean the flux off. Yeah. Crustify! Yeah, you don't want flux to who wants Crusty Flux? That sounds like a good band name, Crusty Flux. If I ever start a band, I think I'll consider the name Crusty Flux. Alright, and I'm just going to hit up all those little points real fast there. You'll have a problem. Problem is translate flux to Dutch. What is flux in Dutch? I'm interested in languages. I like that sort of stuff. That sounds cool. What's special about flux in Dutch? Does it mean something weird? All right, so we got those two. Got that one. And then, so big tip out there for those of you who may be trying this stuff, don't be afraid to like pause and rotate the board to get the best angle for the particular spots that you're working on at the moment. So I just like 180'd this board in front of me so that I can go from the little point that was there to, oh, that's just a glare from the flux. Yeah. To the other angle so that I can make sure I'm able to do a good job. Adam, it sounds like you might need a new tip or maybe just a new iron. I hate to say it, but the $2 Radio Shack, and they're not $2 by any means, but the Radio Shack irons and stuff that a lot of people try to start out with are really just not up to the task here. You probably want something with digital temperature control. There we go. And you probably want something that you can get smelt metal or vlometal. Metal? Maybe I'm trying to put too much accent on it. I don't know. That sounds cool though. Alright, so we're going to hit up this side and then this side. So there we go. And then I think we got one more little point here, which is this guy. Which, there we go. So I think, and I feel pretty good about the quality of the soldering going on here. Looks alright to me. I think we've made pretty good contact with all the spots. So I'm just going to clean that flux up out of there. Cough not. We thanks France for the Azerty layout. Okay. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Alright. So actually, looking at that, look at that WE point here. So we're just kind of giving it the once over, but I think that one could be an issue for us because I can see the pad there and it doesn't look like it's really got great contact going on. The other ones, from what I can see, do. So that's okay. No reason to get discouraged or just hit it with a tiny little bit of flux again and retouch that bad boy up. Alright, so this is a case where when you guys can see good, I can't reach this thing very well. Did that do it? No, not really. I need a different angle. Sorry guys. I know I'm shifting around like crazy on you. Alright. There we go. So, now, to bring it back in from this angle where you can really see the base, I don't see the little pad there. It looks like it's actually adhered pretty well now. So, I don't know. It could have been functional before, but nothing's worse than trying it something that you think should work and then finding out there's kind of one crummy little solder point that's hanging you up. So to pop back over here to the image that has the install diagram, right? So here's the install diagram. We've taken care of the lower portion of installing the chip, all of the pads here, all of that sort of stuff. Your RGH is supposed to arrive today, but it hasn't, and you're so mad. From me? I guess I've sold a number of consoles lately, but if it's supposed to arrive, then check the tracking, see what's going on. I don't know if it's from me or not. Armored Pandas, did you order it from me? Or yes? Yes or no? I don't know what's going on, dude. I'm feeling weird. All right, so we can see in the install diagram there's several places that we need to solder to additionally. And some of those actually go onto the board itself, right? So onto the Viper Dual Nand thing. Oh crap! Onto the Viper Dual Nand thing, we're going to add the CE1, CE2, and RB connections as called out in the install image here. So I guess let's start with RB, right? So here's the info on RB. It's in a little, so it's this box, and then he's broken that out to here, and that is what's going to need to go over to the chip. Let me check. It's not from me. Maybe you didn't even know I existed. Okay, sorry. You got a problem connecting Xbox Live with your Trinity. Do you have a Stealth installed, Peyton? Once you were supposed to get an install, you discovered Okay, sorry. I got to keep going with the install here or I'll never get finished. There's a little bit of cotton crust stuck in there. Everything is crust. Cotton crust, solder crust, pie crust. Pie. Alright, so what we're doing next will be the RB. So we've looked at the reference image and had that up on screen for a minute. So we know that that is up in this area. And I've got to kind of identify here too. So it looks like it is this tiny little bastard right there from the install diagram. So just like he does, I'm gonna bring the wire around here, route it down, and then bring it and attach it to RB. So we're gonna go here, up, around to RB. So first things first, I'm gonna tin the RB pad, get out a little bit of wire. Don't need anything too crazy long. I'm going to trim back the excessive amount of tinned wire that was on the end there. I'm going to get my flux out. I'm going to hit that tiny little point right here with just a tiny bit of flux. Crusty Q-tips, jacked your ride. Now join Cotton Crust. What? Crusty Flux. That's my band name. None of y'all steal it. The Crusty Flux. Alright. So there is the point. We're going to go ahead and put our wire there. There we go. Just a real basic little route around. And then we'll bring this way. So about there is where I need the link to be. And then hopefully, yes, about a week just to make sure. Yeah, it sounds like, dude, you probably need to go talk to Ninja support people. They have like IRC chat and stuff like that. I don't use Stealth. I don't go online. Thanks, the gamer. Belgium, right? Awesome. Thanks for tuning in for Belgium. Alright, so there's RB. Next, CE1. So let's check out our reference image here again. CE1 says that it actually goes to a contact point on the ACE. CE1 to the top of this little resistor labeled P8, it looks like. So I'm going to flip this bad boy over and orient it so that I can try to see. I guess it's an R8. R8. So go back to our Adjust-A-Cam. Here's our chip on the top side, and where we're going is the top side of this R8 connection. So let me get a little bit longer length of wire for this one, since we'll have to run it through one of the through holes in the board down to the bottom side. Alright, I'm gonna be a little liberal with my flux today and actually still throw a little bit of that down here. And just touch the iron there a little bit and melt it up. Here's my wire, so I'm going to come in just like that, right connected to the top of that resistor. And then I think what I'll do is just route it right through the little through hole by the south bridge there. So we'll just pop it right through here, push enough of it through that I can reach my hand and pull that side. I definitely don't want to tug it because you know, it's just connected to a little resistor. And then on this side, so it pops out there, we'll route down and around to CE1. So I'm just kind of routing down and then coming up a little bit. And there we go. Let's use my little stripping tool here. It's not been working so well lately. I probably need to adjust on the tension. Stop and feel your pain. You fight a 7-year-old daily because your Xbox is getting RGH'd and his isn't. If it's a 7-year-old, buy your brother or sister or whoever it is you're fighting with a retail, bro. Come on. More than one Xboxes in a house makes everybody happy, for sure. Alright, so we got CE1 as prescribed in the install document. So now, if we want to pop over and take a look, let's check out where CE2 goes. So CE2 is almost the same spot, right? Just a different resistor going in there. So it's R7, it looks like. So flip this bad boy over and let's basically repeat that same process here. So, go back to the adjust cam and move this out of the way a little bit, right? Because we're actually going right there on top of that resistor. In the name of Arnold, you'll be back. I don't really know what that means. That moment you are live, but you have to pee. I'll be here longer than it should take any normal person to pee. We've been going about 50 minutes, and we're a decent way through this install here. So I think we probably got maybe another hour or something at least. Is it possible to RGH a Xenon on the latest dash? It is my understanding that it is now possible, yes. That said, I think xenons are a waste of time. There we go. Nice little connection there. Not nearly as pretty as the last one, but I burned the insulation around that one by getting a little close there too. I don't know of any issues running these wires next to each other. Sometimes there's like signal interference issues with certain types of installs, but I'm just going to take the gamble that routing these both through the same hole will not present a problem. So yeah. Alright, so we're going to route that this way, up here, and roughly about there. And once again, my stripping tool. Yeah, that time it worked. First click. And we'll put that to CE2. Alright. So we've got those done. Let's see what else there is. So if we go back to the install diagram, we've got an SMC reset point, which looks like it needs to be wired to a point on the underside of the motherboard here, from the top of the chip. Yeah, I agree with I'm going to call you Just Meh, because it sounds fun. Just Meh. We don't touch Xenons or Zephyrs, we being Weekend Modder or whatever, me. So, alright, so this time let's start from the bottom side of the motherboard, because that's where I'm at. So, SMC reset is part of the NAND header stuff. It's on the bottom side over here, which really means that we should just be able to run it from the top side, right? He identifies it on the bottom, but probably only for convenience. So let's look at this. This is the NAND header, right? And here's the 5-volt point. We can tell because the row of them is longer there. It's offset. So if we were to count, if we just go 1, 2, 3, and hit the fourth one over, 1, 2, 3, fourth one over from the 5-volt point, that should be roughly equivalent to, so that's right here, 1, 2, 3, or I said 1, 2, 3, fourth point, but that is this point here, right? Was it the longer one or the shorter one? It's the longer header, so it's here, 1, so 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's actually the NAND point? What? I don't get that. I mean, these are through hole. They go all the way through the board. So that point here, I guess, you know what? Let's just follow the install diagram as it's indicated. So SMC reset says that according to this, it's that point, and it needs to go to the board. I'm just going to follow it exactly as prescribed in the install diagram. So I'm just using a little bit of, oh, I should pop back over to my camera. So I just used the fiberglass scratch pen to clean up the points a little bit. And the one that we're doing, again, is here. This one. So, tin it up. And let me grab a wire. It's got some length to it, because we're going to have to run this over to the top side of the motherboard. So, got one with a little bit too much length there. So again, just trim it short. Make sure you capture your trimmings there too. You don't just let them fall onto your motherboard. Alright, so there is that connection made, and I'm going to pop that out right through that through hole. We'll reach on the underside here and pull it through. And again, we won't pull it tight, we'll just leave it a little loose. So there it is here. And on the ACE chip, that was SMC reset. So SMC reset is called out here as that point. It's the side of a resistor right here. So of course my previous wiring is in the way a little bit. Bonsai, hi, which Xbox do I think is easiest to RGH? I'd say a Trinity RGH is pretty straightforward if you follow my guides. I'd say a fat RGH 1.2 is not too bad as well. Either of those would be pretty good. The Coronas, I would say that we could you would potentially want to avoid as a brand new beginning, because there are some variances in whether the Corona is 4 gig or 16 megabyte NAND, whether it requires a postfix or doesn't require a postfix, or whether you need to bridge the R2C6 and R2C7 points, or whether you don't. And so there's a bunch of variables there. So probably say a Trinity or a FAT would be the way to start. So here we're going to this side. Let's see if I can get in there a little better. So we're going to go to this side of this resistor here. So it says R3 right there, and then we're going to go to that side of it. That's what we're connecting to. So I'm going to come in here like so and get my, well, let's see, do I want to route that way? Give myself a little extra length to play with. All right. Alright, got a little exposed wire here. What am I doing? I'm doing a Viper Dual Nand installation on a Trinity motherboard. The Viper Dual Nand is a unreleased product made by the Mod Shop, the same guy who brought us the SD Tool 2.1 that I began selling recently. So I'm kind of doing a little bit of a beta test of this for Mod Shop. It's possible, although certainly not a guarantee, that I may end up carrying these Dual Nand chips in my store along with some of the other supplies that I sell. But that is yet to be confirmed for sure. Alright, so we got that on the side of the resistor there. There's a little bit of extra length here. Hopefully that won't make a difference. If we have to play with the length or the wiring, we certainly can. Or maybe just tidy it up down the road. Alright, so we got the ACE V3 SMC reset. We got CE1, CE2. So here we go, RF pin 13. And according to that, this is this on the underside. Now this, I'm certain, is for the sync controlling. So back to the underside of the motherboard. Flip this thing back over, yet again. And the housing for the LED ring of light connection is right here on the top side. So this is directly the breakout of that LED ring of light board. So the instructions indicate that this pin, 13 here, is the one that we want to connect to. So once again, since I'm trying to set a good example, we'll hit it with the a little tiny bit of flux, not crusty flux, and we'll pre-tin that bad boy. And we will get a length of wire ready to run that around to the top side here. So I don't know that I have anything quite that long just ready to go, so I'm going to use my roll of Kynar wire here. Oh, and just route it that way. So I'm going to rotate the board here 180 degrees and line it up so you can see that. I'm going to just bring in my little bit of wire here, which I have too much exposed end on. Hey, iDroid helper, thanks for joining. Does RGH use ISO games like the X key? Not directly. The ISO format can be unpacked on a PC, and the RGH can run them in their unpacked state, but it does not have the capability of reading the single ISO files all on its own like that. So since we're going to the top side for the RF pin, I'm just going to trim some extra long length off of this thing, and let's decide where we want to route it up through. Do we want to come over here through this through hole, probably near the south bridge, since the other one's got stuff in it? And we'll call that happy. Alright, so we route it there. Cool, pops out right next to the chip. And then we're going to pretty much the same area that everything else went to, according to the install diagram. Sorry for the shaky cam there. According to the install diagram, this one needs to connect to the top side of the resistor right underneath where it says C13. So right there. That's where we're going to connect this bad boy at. So we need way less length than what I had. I made it way long. But that's fine. So all this we'll just save. Go ahead and strip the end of this thing here. Alright, and then I think I got a little too much metal exposed there. There we go. RGH uses the files directly or the GOD format. Yeah, totally. Alright, so once again, we're going to hit with a little tiny bit of flux. Bring in the iron. And then finally make our connection. There we go. That looks a little nice. And there it is. There looks like some exposed wire there. Right there, there's a break in the insulation. I'm just going to make sure it's not touching anything that it can short out against. Alright, so we've got the RF pin. So let's pop back over to the install here. So we've got SMC reset. Oh, you guys can't see this. Hold on. I got to bring it down. So we've got the SMC reset, check. We've got CE2, CE1, check. We just did the RF pin 13. That's the last one we just did. So the last thing indicated here is the debug LED / the NAND indicator. And I suppose it's probably going to be important that we do that so that we can tell what's going on. So I'm going to use my same little Kynar wire for that one. And then what we'll do is we'll put an extra little LED on the ring of light board, and I'll show you guys how I do that. I used to put debug LEDs on consoles so you could see them glitching more frequently, but with the ACE and the way that it pulses more than one time and stuff, so people were confused about the number of glitch cycles they were getting. So eventually I kind of stopped. Alright, so what we're doing here is we're going to wire up to the bottom side per the directions here of this resistor that says C37. So tiny little bit of flex. Nice little ball of solder there. I'm going to put that right to it. And then this wire will actually run up forward to the ring of light board, and we'll wire it there so that we will get an indication of what NAND we have selected, I think is what that's supposed to do. So I'm going to snip this length extra long. Actually going to put the motherboard back in its case now. We don't have any other reason that we should need to go onto the underside of this thing. Right? And so here's that. So what this wire is going to do is actually go onto the ring of light board and power an LED that we're going to place in addition to the default LEDs here. What you can do is kind of scratch away the top coating so that you can get to the ground plane underneath, and then place a LED onto it, so you actually end up having an extra, LED that wasn't there previously. So I like to do that in the lower right corner because there is some significant plane available here that doesn't have anything going on in it. And when you have the first player controller lit up, these are the two LEDs that are lit up to make that first bar up. So it's not often that you have a fourth player always going. So this indication area is often kind of preferable. So I'm literally just using these tweezers to gouge, scratch into the PCB here. And I just want to go far enough so I expose some copper that I can actually get a little solder ball to adhere to. So a little bit of flux helps a good bit here. Just a tiny little bit. And then apply some heat to it, and I'm getting a little bit of stickage, but not really what I want there. What I'm doing must be interesting again. Nobody's writing in the comments, or I'm not interesting at all and people are leaving. Alright, gouged at it a little bit more. Let's see if we can get some. Yeah, so now we got a little solder ball there, you can see. Still here. Thanks, Peyton. Appreciate you. Let me get a new little cotton swab out. And just clean that up a little bit so you guys can see too. So there's just that little bitty ball of solder there. So now I'm going to grab a resistor. You might want this done to your console. Well, this might be I don't know if this will be a service that I would offer at all again. I did offer a Dual Nand service at one point, and it was never really a hot seller because of how expensive it was at the time. And I don't really know what the cost is going to be on these. So it's possible that I could end up offering the service to Dual Nand again. All right, so now what I've gotten kind of off camera here is a really tiny little additional LED. And on the back side of this, which is going to be impossible for me to catch on camera, there is actually polarity to these LEDs. So what we're going to do is solder so that I'm connecting the negative polarity to the place where I scratched off the PCB, because that's acting as ground or negative for the situation. So what I'm going to do is get a little more solder on my iron. I've looked at the LED. I know what orientation my polarity is in. And I'm soldering the negative side to the grounded point that I've created there. So now I have an extra little LED grounded out. So now what I'll do is I'll bring the end of my wire that we just soldered to that point, and I'm going to trim up the length on this a little bit because it's a little excessive. And I'm going to connect that to the positive side of the resistor. So it's going to look like this. And the idea is that when this thing's all put back together, that LED will be on or off depending on the status of which NAND you have selected. So that'll be like your indicator of what NAND you have active at the moment. All right. So here we go. Does it cost much to run an RGH? If by run an RGH you mean go online, which most people do, most people do mean that. Yeah, it can cost a bit if you're figuring purchasing KVs and purchasing stealth services. Certainly can be an expensive prospect. But if you were to just do offline games, single player stuff, that sort of thing, then by no means, it wouldn't cost you anything. Adam, I would love to help you out with a send-in service, dude, but to be honest, international shipping just murders it. It cost most of $60 to just ship a console to the UK. So if I took send-ins at my $75 rate, I would probably lose money overall doing that for people. So at the current time, I simply just don't offer international send-in service. I'm sorry. Yes, go online with a stealth server, and what stealth server you recommend. I specifically don't recommend one. I don't do it on purpose. So I think we are ready to power this thing up and see what's happening. Switch the NAND to the other one, try to write the ECC file to it, that sort of thing. So I don't super know the controls for this new glitcher yet, but plugged in power, we see a power indicator here. The way that you should change the NAND selected should be pressing and holding on the sync button here. So if I do that, I press and hold it, I'm not seeing the LED light up that we wired in. So it's possible I made a mistake there, or that it's not doing that for whatever reason. I'm going to take a little bit of a gamble and go ahead and try to power the thing on. Now realize we haven't written anything to the Dual Nand chip. and the original NAND still has the retail stock files on it. So a kind of a best case scenario here is that it would still boot retail despite what we've done here. So I'm going to try that. So we are getting at least power on, so we haven't like bricked it or ruined it. Not seeing any pulsing or flashing on the glitch chip. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I never programmed the timing file for Trinities to the ACE. That's definitely going to be necessary. I think the default Corona timing file could potentially not behave in the same way, allowing for the dual NAND thing to happen. So with the timing file from 15432 programmed to an ACE, it can boot retail even with the ACE installed. So what I'm going to do is load JRunner back up, and then I'm going to go to my advanced custom NAND CR functions. I'm going to hit XSVF, and I'm going to load up the TRL 0660. I'll show you the file name here. There it is. This is the file that I use for the ACE v3 on Trinities. So I've got my NANDX. Oh, let me switch the camera. I've got my NANDX here with my CR programming wires. TMS goes into the pin that's been kind of squared off there. Come on. And then you just hold just a little bit of pressure on there, and I'm going to say run, and I get a little output. It says done, and I usually do it twice for good measure. Flashes. Here's a third time just so you can see what the chip looks like. It lights up green for a second, and it goes away. So there we go. So now let's try it one more time. Alright, so we'll turn it on. Alright, so now we're getting pulsing. And so this is just a debug LED. It booted into regular retail just fine. So I feel really good about this because we haven't ruined anything at this point, it looks like. We were able to boot retail. It's running just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and power it off. And then once it's off here, so wait for the fan to stop, I'm going to press and hold the sync button, which I hope is doing what it's supposed to do. Then I'm going to connect my NANDX back up to the NAND header, and then pop back over to JRunner. I'm going to select the CR4, say create an ECC, let's say write an ECC, and my hard drive went to sleep because I've been talking for so long. So it'll come back here in just a second. It says not responding right now. There we go. Image, and it's writing. So I think what we're writing to is the dual NAND chip, hopefully. Alright, and then we'll disconnect the NANDX. And then I always like to do a brief power pull and then reinsert after I write the NAND, which I think means that it should now be back to the retail NAND. So I'm going to try to boot it again. And let's see what happens. So it looks like it's actually trying to glitch. The debug light is flashing in sync with the debug light on the chip. So I would have expected this to be trying to boot retail here, if we're running from the stock NAND. So there's a successful glitch. And we're running Zell. Look at that. So I'm plugging in my Ethernet cable so I can grab the CPU key. I haven't gotten that for this console yet. So it'd certainly be worth having to suck it into JRunner here. So all the way down at the bottom, we've got 192.168.185. So if I just plug that in here at 85 and say, oh, sorry, 192.168.1.85 and say get CPU key, it sucks it in here without me having to type it in. And then I can create an XE build image, which I now have, a updflash.bin, and we can hook up our NAND reader writer and write that back to the console now. So let's power this thing off. This is a new chip. It is called the Viper Dual Nand. Let's see. It's called the Viper Dual Nand. It's by the modshop.co. It's a tiny little dual NAND chip that so far has been pretty easy to install. So I'm digging it. I like it so far. All right. So we know we've got a updflash.bin ready to go, but at this point I'm not confident that we're getting actively switched from the dual NAND to the onboard NAND. We've got the ECC file written. If I press and hold sync, and then try to boot it, we get pulsing. We get the debug light lighting up as well in sync with this debug light. And it seems like we're going to boot Zell again, probably. It's taken a fair number, a few glitch cycles, but it did the first time too. Oftentimes the number of boot cycles that it takes to boot Zell with the ECC file is not representative of the number of times it would take to boot the updflash.bin, the full NAND. There's just different behavior that you get out of them that way. Alright, so I'm going to power this off. I just hit the button on my remote control here. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and hook up the NAND reader writer, the NANDX, and let's go ahead and write that updflash.bin. So when I first plug it in, my expectation is that it defaults to the onboard NAND. So I believe by pressing and holding the sync button, 1, 2, 3, for a second, I should have just switched it to the dual NAND, and then I should be able to come over to JRunner and say write NAND and write the updflash.bin to the console here. Wow, 27 people watching. This is cool. That might be a record. I don't think I've ever gotten over 30. So the fact that people are coming in this late in the stream is real cool. Just a reminder, we're doing a Viper Dual NAND, which is a new product unreleased by the modshop.co. It will be available at some point, I imagine. Hopefully, I might even be able to resell it for you guys. So we'll see. But today we're just kind of having some fun and doing an install for it. Not terribly complex. It's got a good install guide already from the mod shop. So we are writing the updflash.bin, the final NAND image now. Although at this point I'm not certain if I'm writing to the onboard NAND or the NAND on the dual NAND that we installed. Ideally, there would be like a LED indicator that would tell me which one I have selected, kind of like the Demon did. But so far, I haven't quite figured that one out. I may need to go back to Mod Shop with a little bit of feedback on that. I'm not sure. Maybe there's already something here. I haven't had a whole ton of opportunity to dig in or do much research. All right, so cool. We completed the write. UPD flash successfully written. So I'm going to go ahead and physically disconnect my NAND reader. I'm going to unplug power. I'm going to replug power. And then again, my default assumption is upon a fresh plug-in, it should be on the default NAND. So I'm going to press and hold on the sync button for a 3 count. And that should put us on the RGH NAND on the dual NAND. And I'm going to try to boot that. Oh, I'm also going to remove my Ethernet cable now because when this console successfully boots, it is now an RGH. So that was an RGH successful boot. You can see the LEDs here. And we are booting up into Dash. So I've got my my little USB here. I'm going to plug that in and just verify that I'm able to run and see XEX menu. So I'm going to sync a controller here real fast. I'm going to press the sync button on the controller. And I'm going to press this sync button. So that still works well. That's good. So we're going to go to the Xbox screen. So it sees the update on there, which I'm not going to do right now. But under games, we have XEX menu. And we can successfully launch it looks like. Well, of course it wants me to do the update first. Okay, crap. We're going to have to do that just to demonstrate it. It's because I also keep a copy of the Avatar update on this USB. So it's seeing that and wanting to apply it. But it's going to try to apply to itself, which is going to go really slow because there's no other storage device in the console right now. So this is going to, if we let this finish, it's going to take a while. That sucks. What can I do? Let me cancel this. It's going to reboot the console, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So it's blinking again. You can see that it's glitching. The 2 LED indicators. While it's doing that, I'm going to rename those Avatar update folders real fast so that we don't have the same trouble next time. Alright. Okay, I've just renamed those. I'm ejecting my USB. I'm going to plug it back into the console. And then I'm going to hit the Xbox. Alright, so now under the Games tab, once the USB reads in, this will refresh in just a second. And we should see, there we go, XEX menu. We should be able to launch that and not get prompted for the updates because I renamed those folders. So there we are, successfully running XEX menu on the console. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the stock dash and verify we're on 17511. and actually turn it off. So here's the thing, is that I'm not confident we're doing anything other than with the retail NAND at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and let it go off. It's the fan stopping, and I'm just going to do a press and hold on the, there we go. So I pressed and hold on the sync button, and then I'm going to boot it again. And in theory, we should now be on the opposite NAND that we were on, right? We were on, obviously, the RGH NAND, which should have been living on the Dual Nand chip. We should now be in the retail NAND. But based on the slowish boot time here, I would expect it to still flash. That's normal. Like, the consoles will still, the Ace chip will still look like it's trying to glitch, even though it's actually booting retail. But the fact that this is actually looks like it's genuinely glitching and waiting and resetting makes me think again that we're not successfully switching over to the other NAND. Just taking its sweet time booting too. One more point that I feel like, okay, so there's going to be our successful boot. While we're waiting for that, one more point that I am going to make here is what I've done creating a UPD flash stop bin off of the retail image. When it comes to actually doing a genuine dual NAND, you would never want to really do that. Maybe in the beginning for testing like I'm doing right now, but so bear with me, this is relatively complex and sometimes difficult for people to get, is that your retail RGH console, let me start one more time. Your retail console, every Xbox 360 console on the planet has a KV built into it. And the point of the KV is it contains your serial number and that sort of information. And when Microsoft bans you, they blacklist your KV essentially, right? So with a retail, the challenge of getting banned is you can't do anything about what your KV is. You get blacklisted and you're permanently blacklisted. The retail cannot be unbanned. The advantage that we get with the RGH is that we can manipulate the software to actually run with a different KV. So when you get banned on an RGH, you just swap out your KV and you keep trucking. Well, so you understand that principle, and then think about your dual NAND. You have your original NAND that you read off, and then you created an XE build based on that NAND. So they share the same KV. So when you write the UPD flash to your mod chip, your dual NAND chip, and then you leave your retail on the same KV, when your RGH gets banned, when, not if, but when the RGH gets banned, the KV that was also shared with the retail side also gets banned. So now you have a banned retail / RGH, and it's worthless, right? You've just ruined the entire point of dual NANDing your console. So strongly recommend that you immediately change the KV in the image that the RGH image. So buy a KV, use an old banned one, whatever you want to do, but just don't use the same one that came off of the console, because that's its retail KV. You want to protect that one because you want that one to be able to go on Xbox Live normally. You want to be using a different KV on the RGH side so that when it gets banned, you can simply swap out and keep moving, and your retail one is nice and safe. So that's a really important thing to consider with doing any dual NAND. So what we saw there was that it did eventually boot, and it booted up into a RGH image, which we verified by launching XEX menu. So I'm thinking that either something is up with the install, or I've managed to miss a step or something here. So I'm just going to kind of give this thing a little bit of a once-over. So we've got our debug. Oh, let me move this ring of light board out of the way now. Alright, come on and focus. There we go. So we've got our debug LED here, which we've confirmed is functional. We've got our RF pin 13 here, which is using our other Kynar wire. And we went to the top of the point labeled C13, so we did that correct per the install diagram. We've got CE1 here. We've got CE2 here. And then on the side here we have SMC reset on R3, the back side of that one. So that's all good. So let me flip this thing over. And let's just look. So the orientation of the install image is like this. And just to remind everybody what we're looking at is this Viper Dual NAND install guide. And we're just making sure that we've followed through with everything here. So our RF pin 13 definitely connected and at the top pin 13 like it's supposed to. Okay. And then we've got RB, which is here and run. We've got C1 and C2. We've got all of our little solder points here. We've got our power. We got our CE. And then finally over here we have our SMC reset, which is third over here, no problem. And it's run up to the SMC reset on the board. We kind of confirmed that before. So, to be frank, I'm not sure what I'm missing here. Something is obviously not behaving in the way that I expect it to, because I should be able to flip back and forth between this NAND and the onboard NAND. But so far it seems like everything we've done has been to the onboard NAND. Our install here looks pretty good per the install diagram. But, yeah, so do I know where I can find the debug LED point on the Ace V3? Yeah, we just did that a minute ago, so cool. This runs over there. I mean, the only thing is I used a really light gauge wire for this, the sync button point, and I wonder if that connection's not as great as it could be or something. It's a little dull instead of nice and shiny like the rest of the connections. So maybe we'll just be overcautious and touch that bad boy up. So find my squeezers, as my 2-year-old son calls them. Daddy, can I see your squeezers? My what? Your squeezers. Oh, he means tweezers. Okay. Alright, so it doesn't look much better, but there's more solder on it. And, you know what I'll do? I'm going to hold some heat on it for a second just to make sure that it's, like, really good and connected. I don't really see how that can be not electrically connected. So let's try one more time. Xbox Monitor, what's up, dude? Thanks for joining, bro. You're a little late to the party. Not that like you were, had to be here or whatever, but thanks for coming. We're probably gonna wrap up here before too long, because likely I'm gonna need some feedback from Mr. Mod Shop about what I have missed here. So what we're doing is a Viper Dual Nand chip install. It's a cool new unreleased product, not available anywhere yet. And it is a replacement for the Demon, essentially. So it's a Dual Nand, looks just like this. It's nice and tiny. The basic install is roughly the same. And we've gone through and installed the whole thing here, and we're not confident that what we're getting is successfully flipping from one NAND to the other. So we just retouched up the RF connection, which is the thing that is, I assume, trying to pick up on the signal from the RF board here, the sync button, so that it uses a long press of the sync button in order to change which NAND is in use. So I just long pressed it, and I get no visual indicator here, but let's see. Now that to me looks like a console that's still trying to glitch. Not necessarily one that is attempting to boot. Well, as far as we know, nothing written to the other NAND. How long have the Team X360 forums been down? I haven't been over there in a while. I noticed they were down weeks ago, but did they just close up shop? Is that what happened? Does anybody have any details on that? So the boot times definitely could use some playing with. This thing probably needs the alternate timing file. Instead of the 6_ stuff, you do the 5_ timing file. That could potentially resolve the long boot time issue here. So you guys can probably see how frequently this is flashing here and how that might confuse folks. So that's kind of why I stopped doing the debug LED traditionally with my other installs. But the install diagram here kind of called for it, so yeah, that's what I was getting before too, is like there's some page that somebody has parked on their old URL trying to link farm out the connections or whatever. So I wonder if maybe it did switch to the other NAND, right? There's nothing on it, so it would just run and never really be able to boot. I guess that could be. So I'm disconnecting power, reconnecting power, and again, assumption would be on a fresh power connect, we would be on the default NAND, which I believe is now written with the UPD flash.bin. So if we get a good boot now, within a relatively short amount of time, then I'll power off, I'll press the button and see if we can write, I guess we want to write the UPD flash again, and then we want to write the original NAND image back to the built-in NAND. That's generally how I prefer to have it. Is you run the RGH stuff off of the additional NAND from the dual, and you run your retail stuff off of your default baked in, your built-in NAND. I might need to change that timing file now instead of waiting to tune it out later, because this is starting to get redonkulous. Let's give it a second here. Alright, I'm going to change the timing file real fast here. You guys can't see. Timing file. So you can see the little green light kicks on for a second and it goes off. That's indicating it's been reprogrammed. So again, plugging in fresh should be on the baked in NAND, which we think contains the UPD flash.bin. And look how fast that is now! Exactly what we needed. Different timing file. Alright, so where's my USB? Here it is. I'm going to plug that in. Because if on the Xbox screen, if it shows XEX menu, instead of corrupted, well, I don't think it would show corrupted because we've not managed to write the default NAND to anything. Alright, so we're on the default NAND. I'm going to go ahead and press and hold. I'm going to give it a 3 count. So 1, 2, 3. Alright, so my assumption is I should be on the other NAND. Why not? Let's write the UPD flash.bin to that. So there it's going. So we're writing the UPD flash.bin to that one, and then I'll switch over to the other one and rewrite the retail NAND. Yeah, it's tiny, dude. It's super tiny. I don't really understand what else was going on with the daemon that would have required it to be so big, other than maybe, some tech is advanced to allow them to shrink down. But if I had to guess, maybe the other one was either over-engineered or, the other thing that occurred to me too is I didn't check with the mod shop, but there might be a special timing file required for this thing. I wonder if there's a dual NAND enabled timing file that I'm supposed to be using rather than just a standard timing file. It seems reasonable that might be the case, but the cool thing about the ACE timing files in general has been they will boot retail even with the ACE installed. So I'm not super confident that that's what's going on, but it's possible. Alright, so we're pretty close to rewriting the UPD flash.bin to what we hope is the modded NAND or RGH NAND. So after this happens, I'm going to disconnect. Then I'm going to press and hold the power off, power on, should have us on the default NAND, right? And then I'm going to load up the nanddump.bin file and write that. So now we are writing the nanddump.1.bin, hopefully to the onboard NAND. So that should leave us with the original retail NAND on the onboard NAND and the RGH modded NAND on the Dual Nand chip. X360 Ace V3 or X360 Run for RGH. Depends. Well, definitely prefer the Ace V3 pretty much on every console type. I've used the X360 Run on a number of Coronas and Trinities with pretty good success, but maybe it's just because I've done more of them. Overall, the Ace seems to give me better, more consistent performance across many, many consoles. I was looking through my NAND archive the other day, and I just crested over 1,200 RGHs completed at this point. So I have NAND backups. It's like 40 gigs or something. It's like 1,200 consoles that I've RGH now. So I don't know if anybody else has done more than that. Maybe. I'd like to know. It'd be cool to have like the title of most prolific modder out there. I don't know. Has any one person done more RGH mods than that? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe somebody like 5K. I don't know. Somebody asked about Davis or not on every stream. He's not somebody that I worry about his opinion, so I have no idea. I don't care. I'm moved on. Does not make a difference to me. All right, so I'm going to power cycle, and then hopefully we're on the default NAND, right? So we should get a really fast boot into the default. Okay, so that's encouraging. Xbox screen here. And then hopefully, if this is doing what I expect or hope that it would do, is under the Games tab, we should see it show up as like corrupted or nothing at all. Okay, so this is looking positive. It's got a memory unit. Oh, it is working! That must have been it. The little sync thing was not connected well. So on the retail side, this is exactly what we would expect XEX menu to look like. It just says corrupted. So this is now the retail NAND running on the stock onboard NAND, right? So I guess to really prove that it's working, I need to power this thing off. Right? I'll give it a 5 count, and I'm going to give it a 5 count, let the fan stop here. And I'm going to press and hold. I'm going to give it a three count on the sync button. 1, 2, 3. All right. So now when we boot, in theory, we should be booting into the RGH side of things. So either that was an insta boot or we're still booting the retail NAND. I don't know which at this point. Damn stream still on. Sorry, I guess. Under the Games tab, if this was indeed the RGH side running off of the Dual NAND, I would expect XEX menu to be back in here and for it not to show as corrupted, which it does. So we're still only getting boots off of the onboard NAND. That's a bummer. I honestly don't know what's going on. Oh, I didn't show you guys on screen, so you'll have to take my word for that. It showed corrupted and the same thing that you guys just saw before, so it was not running from the RGH thing. So I'm going to send this video, not with the expectation that he would watch the whole thing, but in a quick summary over to Element, what is it, 18952, the modjop.co. Awesome guy. He's the one who designed this. I really like the install. It's gone well so far, but I think I'm missing some magic sauce here, something that needs to be documented or whatever. But this has been kind of a cool look. It was fun. I really appreciate you guys hanging out, but I'm going to go ahead and call it. I got to get ready for work to leave here in just a little while. A comma would have helped Viper Dual NAND by the... comma? It's cool how long you stream. Oh, you're talking to Gaming Beast. He needs the comma. Okay. Yeah, I'm certain that, like, maybe there's a magic timing file that then reads in the changes, you know, for the little solder points that we made here. Maybe one of these connections is not great. I'll absolutely do a follow-up for sure and let everybody know what's going on. I'll make another video post about it. But I'm going to call this stream for now. Thank you guys very much for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. For all of you guys watching after the fact, look a little later in my video stream for the follow-up on what we were missing, why this wasn't accessing the other NAND. And thanks for hanging out with me today. You guys have a good one.